Welcome back to Junction 119. This is Kellan,
This is Casen.
and we are back. How are you, my friend?
Good, good. It's good to be back. With my adjusted lifestyle, with your profession, we're a little sporadic here, and
A
it's
little
hard to get together
sporadic,
these
but I mean,
days.
we talked like a good 2.5-ish weeks ago. And to be honest with you, had it not been for a trip I took with my other team that I'm covering this past weekend, we probably would have gotten you this particular show earlier. But honestly, now we have more to talk about. So,
Hmm.
not going to waste any time here. We do have a full lineup here. We're going to get into Daredevil Born Again. It has returned. We're going to talk a little bit of Spider-Man trailer. We're going to get into some coaching carousel, but we begin. I feel like it's a very brief story this time, but one of our most listened to shows last year, bro, was when I talked about the journey in the NIT last year.
Yeah.
You were kind of asking me questions here and there. I figured I would at least address it since it was super brief this year. If you're not familiar, and I also will preface with this, I never really talk about my job in any extended length or anything. I've never said anything on this cast I'm not allowed to say or whatever. But it is fun to be able to, have like an actual, a recording per se of me talking about my times when I've, been fortunate enough to be covering a team that makes it to postseason basketball. So that's your cue that it's going to be a This Is March show. So
Hmm.
I guess I'll at least preface by just telling you how it goes because are you familiar at all with like kind of how the finding out process works for like postseason tournaments and stuff?
I believe that like whoever's in charge like contacts the admin for the team, right? And then it's like, do you want to do this? And they either say yes or no.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, obviously there's a lot of obviously last year there was a lot of opt-outs, but I can tell you this whole you would think that it's like, "Oh, you've done this all before." It was completely different this time around in that last year I got a call from someone who's a member of the staff that we were in. This year I found out along with everyone else at the reveal when they posted it on social media. I'm dead serious. Like we were watching and we were like, okay, the NIT was like, oh, full bracket reveal at 9:30 at night, and it's a Sunday. It's the Sunday. It's selection Sunday. It's that Sunday,
Hmm.
and I'm just waiting there. And to be completely honest with you, I was 50-50. I was like, I have no idea because opt outs are still a thing. I thought there was a good chance, but sure enough, obviously my work chats are kind of blowing up. It's like, sure enough, here we go. It says Kent State headed to Illinois State this day. And it's like, well, I guess once again, happy birthday to me. um, which was cool because last year we played on the Tuesday at St. Bonaventure. That's one of my favorite shows that we talked about. This year we played at Illinois State on a Wednesday, so we had an extra day to get there, and so we ended up flying to Chicago. But I'll say this at first: I was ready to go because I had a graphic ready. I was sitting there. I remember I texted you, friend of the show, Matt, other folks, friends of the show, Nate and Josh, and other folks, and it was cool to be honest. I was tired from the previous like thing of the season because I'm sitting here fully expecting it's like, all right, well, I guess we're gonna see if we can go on a bit of a run or something like that again.
Hmm.
And it's one of those things where the rest of the staff is getting our travel situated essentially right then and there because you can't wait on these things. And it's a really interesting world. I didn't really talk about it much last year, but it's a really interesting circumstance when you are the non NCAA tournament travel.
Hmm.
It's more on your own and stuff, but this one was fairly easy. We flew from Cleveland to Chicago, commercial. We went, we spent like a day in Chicago, which was cool. I ended up spending my birthday in Chicago, which was fun. Then we went down to Illinois State. Had the game on that Wednesday. Got pretty much blown off the floor. I mean, I say that, but they were so good out of the gate. It really and if you know anything about Illinois State Redbirds, they won the CIT last year. And oh, by the way, they beat us pretty handily. They were solid. They were the better team that night. They have since beaten Wake Forest, Dayton. That was the really surprising one, and they are in the Final Four of the NIT. They will be playing against Auburn.
Wow.
And
Wow.
then on the other side of the bracket is New Mexico and Tulsa. So I mean, they're balling like they're going to try to win the whole thing. So if I'm sitting here thinking to myself, well, if we go out, at least it might be to the champions of this whole thing, and at least it was to, at least as of this taping, as of this recording, to the team that has made it to the Final Four. So
Hmm.
that genuinely makes you feel
Yeah.
good. So
Yeah, you're like, okay, well, at least they're a really good team.
yeah.
Like,
And they were a really good team. And shout out to our guys for an incredible season. You never know how long this is going to go, but I'll echo something that just various staff members of ours had said. I'm really happy the NIT still exists. I'm not necessarily sure what the future of the National Invitation Tournament looks like, to be honest with you, my guy, as they talk about expanding the field of 68 to more,
mhm.
which I do, to be honest with you, think will happen sometime in the next 3 to 5 years. But yeah,
I have a quick question on that. We don't need to go too far down that road, but my quick question about the
Mhm.
NIT is just like your thoughts.
Sure.
Because when that bracket dropped on Selection Sunday, people were making comments and just observing about the differences in like who was in the NIT 3 years ago
Yeah.
versus who's in it now. And it's like you're seeing a lot more big time programs just not do the NIT or
Yeah. There were like 8 significant opt-outs this time around, including like Indiana, including like Virginia Tech. They were like the first team to opt out. Uh, that you can go look up the list online. And
Mhm.
do the opt-outs help out teams on the fringe like us? Obviously, yes, that is the case. However, I will say this. We talk so much about mid-major basketball, and we've talked about it on our show, and how there's almost like a subset of like it 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 has its own fans. It has its own rabid fan bases, and we only really seem to talk about programs that make it around this time of year because of the big dance, right? And I'd say that its relevancy. I think the opt outs of the NIT might be driving a little bit of that conversation of expanding the big one, because you'll have, because to be honest with you, my belief is that they try to make the argument of, oh, more of these mid majors would get into the big dance. That's not what would happen. You and I both know it would be fringe Power Four schools that
Yeah.
probably shouldn't be in there, right?
Mhm.
And shout out the MAC, because on our last show we did talk about how ultimately the MAC did get 2 schools in. Miami and Akron both got in. Miami University of Ohio beat SMU and then lost to Tennessee, but they made it,
Mhm.
right? And yeah,
As I predicted, they were in the first four in Dayton.
they
As
were.
I said, I had it here first.
You
Which,
did.
which, great. Anybody who knows what winning a tournament game means, great for the Mac. Great for the Mac.
It is great for the MAC, and it's great for, objectively, gave us a pretty incredible moment too when, right as the free throws were going on for SMU, the entire swim team from Miami came through the stairways all in their speedos and stuff. That was actually pretty incredible. And then they won that game, right? So that is good for the MAC, and also when you consider that Akron didn't look like they didn't belong against Texas Tech, and then Texas Tech pulled away at the end. Texas Tech also like wasn't 100% either, but either way, the importance of things like the NIT is just that the season doesn't have to end for so many programs that really did have a great year. These 20-win seasons, your
Hmm.
Illinois States, your Kent States, and I don't want to see tournaments like that go away in the expansion, because that is my biggest fear. Where
Hmm.
enough of the committee and the NIT, which is like the oldest tournament in college basketball, literally the NIT is, literally their phrase is the college basketball's beginning, because it used to be that was the big dance, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Years and years ago before the NCAA tournament. And I just, my experience with it has been so good, even in the short one this year. I hope it continues.
Right. And my thing with the NIT though is it has a place because in talking about tournament expansion, we can kind of parlay this as we progress, but like
Sure.
there's been lots of conversation about how this tournament has played out in relation to the future of tournament expansion. Whereas, like, are we seriously going to invite even worse teams into this tournament if this is what we're getting the first weekend? Like
Well, that's a good
this
question.
I mean it's been like a historically chalk opening weekend, and which has since set up some pretty all-time second weekend games and stuff. But like my question is just like, what is the point of expanding the tournament when we know how this is going to go?
I
Like
agree.
going to 68, going to whatever. Like all it's going to be is these teams are going to go to get slaughtered by one seeds. Like I don't see the point of what we're even doing here.
I would agree with you. And at least with the NIT, you put like mid majors against, like I look at it sort of like as the equivalent maybe in football of like how the Motor City Bowl used to be with you, that was always like a mid tier, like Big Ten school against like a high tier MAC
Hmm.
school, stuff like that. You have more of the potential for those matchups to happen in the NIT, right? And the CIT, but mainly the NIT. Like I say CIT because the CIT didn't happen this year, but the CIT is very much a mid-major tournament, always really has been. But yeah, the NIT, there absolutely is importance there, and it's not only that, but it's actually like a tournament that is chock full of teams at level competition that can make a
Well,
run in it.
and what's even though there were a lot of opt-outs, like I mean, I am a little surprised that I didn't really know that they were that Auburn went, because like considering that they were like such on the bubble of the tournament, I'm
Right.
surprised they did agree to go to the NIT.
And they've gone and
Um,
they've made the most of it, right? I mean,
yeah.
for as much as we talked about them and the attention that Bruce Pearl brought to them, obviously with his son as the coach now, they've brought it. Like that, truly,
Which
they didn't opt out.
to,
They said,
to
"Hey, we're going to do this. Let's do it."
to me, this is kind of the beautiful thing of the NIT, which is like a program like Auburn is going up against Illinois State. Like,
Yeah,
who knows what happens with that? But that's a matchup like Illinois State probably would never make the tournament, like
I mean,
normally without winning. I
without winning
mean,
the Valley, right?
yeah, yeah,
Exactly. And that's and if they did make the tournament, they wouldn't have the seed against like I don't know, 10 seeded Auburn, right?
yeah.
I'm just throwing a number out
Right.
arbitrarily
It's
out
just like
there.
that's a matchup that would never happen because
Exactly.
Illinois State, if they make the tournament with winning the conference, they play a one or two.
They
They
might
would
play
be
like a
seated so low. Yeah,
this particular Illinois State team would have probably been the equivalent of like Akron, but like
yeah,
still like a 13, you know what I mean? So 13, 12-ish around there, but they're good, like legitimately. So like I'm excited to see like what, how the NIT unfolds. That is on Thursday of this week at Hinkle Fieldhouse. And yeah, which last year, shout out, the Golden Flashes, we were one game away from making it to Indy last year. So 2 years in my current seat and role, two postseasons. I can't complain. I feel a little bit giddy,
hmm,
sort of like I was in marching band for 4 years at BGSU and I got to go to four bowl games. Like very few people can say that, like
yeah,
when it comes
right,
to
right,
circumstances. So that's where I was. Shout out Chicago. We did go to the Bean, which was great.
yeah,
Cloud something. I forget its actual name. I knew it at one point 2 weeks ago, but
yeah,
we transition to the tournament because I think that is a good transition point. I will just go ahead out of the gate, bro, and say to me this has been a much better March Madness than last year because there's actually been some parity. There's actually been some madness. It hasn't been straight one seeds like it was last year,
yeah,
which obviously we sat here and talked about a year ago. But anything stand out to you? I have the whole bracket pulled up here, and we're not going to go through all these games or anything. It's just like, I guess we'll go ahead and say the one real upset that happened in the first round was High Point over Wisconsin. That's kind of
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and that's significant in its own right. Just High Point couldn't miss. I've often said though, it's like, yeah, that's cool. A High Point beat Wisconsin, but then they lost to Arkansas in a relatively close game. They lost like 94 to 88,
yeah.
but that's the closest thing to like a
So
true upset you've had.
I I want to at least sort of address it. So like I kind of touched on is that like we haven't really been seeing your uh Fairleigh Dickinsons, your
Cinderella.
so you're like huge shocking like 16 over 1 Cinderella upsets, or your Oral Roberts, your um
You're
yeah,
like Lehigh over Duke.
yeah, like the we haven't
Mercer
really been
over
seeing that.
whoever. I think
And
also Duke.
I think it kind of comes back to the main reason we were seeing it, which what kind of felt like a lot, like for like 2 years in there. And I think it just kind of came down to sort of this perfect mix of like an overlap of when the like COVID super seniors were able to stay at their universities. And so you had these, lower tier mid-major programs that had like 30-year-olds that were like in their seventh year playing on this basketball team. And and along with like these higher level programs that were getting all these like only freshman teams with like NIL stuff, and they weren't really accustomed to playing like that. And so I think I in my opinion, and the way that I felt like was that it was sort of this perfect combination for teams that were really experienced, that knew how to play well together, that had been playing together for a long time, had the chance to do that over, really young teams that probably were more talented, but could get rattled easily in the moment, could, not be clutch. And so I think as it sort of leveled off, as all those extra year guys have gone out, and we're 6 years out from that now. And so I think it's kind of settled back now to where most of the talent in college basketball relies with the wealthiest pockets at the top. And so here what we see is a couple upsets that are, interesting, but for the most part, it's just really, really high level basketball, in the Sweet 16 and Elite Eight.
I really love what you just said there because I don't think people who don't follow basketball or like don't have to for their job like I do, don't realize like how much the continuity of a roster, especially at the mid-major level, means. Like the chemistry you form and everything. And aside from NIL money, the transfer portal has really hurt this just because now you
Yeah.
have got these smaller programs are getting poached, but they're also getting poached by other mid majors. That's the thing too. That's
Hmm.
like very fascinating of what you're seeing. Like we're already talking about like the things. We're already talking about speculation where I work about like what some of these guys are, and a lot of these guys are from other mid majors, and it's sort of like, of course, your really good players are going to get poached by your top programs and even like your middle of the road power fours, right? But um, you're right though. Like, and I'll give you an example because it is. I'm not going to transition, but like it does pay a means. It means something based on what we're going to talk about later on. Closest one we had, we did have Siena give Duke a game, to a point there where it looked like it was going to go through, and Jerry McNamara's squad there at Siena, who has since moved on, and that's a topic on our lineup. But right there, Siena was not a team necessarily chock full of guys who were all together at once. It was a team very much put together with NIL. So
Hmm.
it cuts both ways, so to speak. But you're right though. The continuity of building that roster over time, continuity and returners still means a
I
lot.
I think what the whole NIL transfer portal era, what that's going to do to basketball, and I mean really sports in general, but it's going to change coaching philosophies.
It is.
And I'm sure, I'm sure you've heard your staff talk about this a lot, but it's just like you're gonna have to adjust how you coach to make guys gel fast.
Yep.
Like guy and older coaches who are kind of stuck in their ways of just being used to having guys that are around together for a long time are gonna have to figure out how to adapt to that. Of You're gonna have to figure out how to get guys to play together quickly.
Yep.
And I mean that's not easy to do. And so it's going to
Yeah.
be, when you're talking about like who's going to be rising up the coaching ranks, it's going to be guys who can figure out how to do that.
It's
And
roster
that's a
building year to year versus
yeah.
program building, really.
Yeah.
And
Which
you're
which is a
right.
very NBA coach trait. Like
It
we
is.
talked about it in football a lot, which is like this it's like the NFLization of college football, which is why you're seeing Ohio State get a lot of NFL coaches come in and be assistants, because it's basically an NFL job at this
It
point.
is. It is. And I all of this as well, I will say, I was never an SID, a sports information director in the pre-NIL era for basketball, right? All I know is what I've known in the last 3 years, right? And I can tell you that one of the things that I really would not have anticipated, if you told me I was going to get back in athletics at my position like 5 years ago, when I kind of first started doing this 5, 6, 7 years ago, um, the conversations being had now are how can we find a way to quickly replace, I'm not getting into detail, how can we find a way to quickly replace like these stats we're losing? You know what I mean? And it seems to be, and I would imagine that's happening in a lot of places. And you're not thinking in terms of, okay, can we get that out of a kid who's going to be here 3 years, 4 years? Like, we need to replace this right now, next year. And so that right there, I think, and that's changed recruiting, you know?
It's like cut to that scene in Moneyball where where they're like,
Exactly. Like, but
we need
it's
to replace them in the aggregate.
exactly. And it's like we need to, yeah, we need to get X amount of runs and we need to get X amount of wins. No, we need to get X amount of runs to get those wins. And those
Yeah.
wins are going to help us make the postseason. Like sabermetrics, but like truly like the sabermetrics of like college basketball, like I am literally seeing it, you know?
Mhm.
And that's the fascinating thing. And so when it comes to this big tournament, the thing that is still, I heard someone say this, and we can kind of talk about some of these games. We can talk about the Final Four a little bit. The thing about this tournament that has remained consistent is, does necessarily the best team win this tournament every year? Generally, yeah, but it's really the hottest team. It's like a combination between who's playing the best and also who is the best. Because they're, for that's the only way that some of these teams have gone is run. And that really, to me, has never gone away, even with the transfer
Mhm.
portal, even with NIL. And I would say, like, this year, we've really gotten a lot of that because, like, I think this is a good piece of transition. We're recording this on a Monday. It'll be Tuesday by the time you hear this. Literally on Sunday night, we got one of the all-time greatest finishes in the history of the tournament between UConn and Duke. If you haven't seen it, go, which you've definitely seen it if you if you're watching or listening to our show. But go check it out. Mullins from UConn. I mean, the best way I can describe it, Case, and let's see if you agree. Duke lost in the exact way that Virginia lost to Furman, essentially, like 2 years ago. You remember that? Where it's like,
Mhm.
okay, like stifling defense, gonna throw it this direction. Oh, stolen by Mullins on UConn. Passes it once, and then he passes it back to him. Top of the key three, money. it just and it's like, oh, point four. Oh, they win. That's it. A buzzer beater without it being time completely expiring, right?
Mhm.
Um, truly an incredible finish between two of the blue bloods, of course. But I would argue that from the whole season, Duke is pound for pound a more talented team than UConn has been this year.
Mhm.
UConn just played a better game and they got the hot play at the end and they were with them the whole time. And they ultimately, it takes a little bit of luck to get through.
Yeah.
But that right there is what I'm talking about. And I don't know. There's an element of that I think has still never gone away with March Madness. Would you agree, disagree?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I think I would maybe push back on like the best team wins every year.
Hmm.
You know that certainly is not true, but
Okay, so you kind of
there's
see what I'm saying. Okay.
I mean because of stuff like that. Like it's Duke isn't going to win the even though Duke was probably the largest favored, if that makes like the most popular pick.
On
It's
paper,
not it's
best team. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's not like UConn. If UConn would then go and win it again, it's not like they're undeserving. Like
I agree.
UConn's still a really good team.
You have to win the games.
This is the thing is that like when you look at this year's Final Four between UConn, Illinois, Michigan, Arizona, any one of these four teams is deserving of winning it.
I would agree
Like
with that.
it's not like no one would be mad if one of these teams won
Do
because
you
if it
feel
didn't
that
won.
most years is the case?
Some, not all. So
Okay, okay.
probably most, but it's like some years there's some like some years there's some like crappy Cinderella that you know is going to get annihilated once they went against an actual good
I
team.
don't want to hear
And
any
so
slander about the Shaka year, man. The 2011 VCU, who shout out VCU for knocking out North Carolina this year. That was awesome.
I was mostly referring to Loyola, but
Loyola's another one.
like that's a good story, but it's like they're getting run over by a buzzsaw. like
Well, and it really makes me think the two times my life that I really think about that is you probably remember, you're not that much younger than me, but I do deal with people every day, students who are much younger than me that don't remember things like the shock of year. The back-to-back Brad Asmussen Butler years, man. They absolutely should have won one of those 2 years, but those guys were actually amazing. They deserved to be there. Oh, this is a fluke. No, they made it back to the national championship the following year. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I would agree with you that all four of these teams are deserving to be in the Final Four. It's cool to see Illinois back in here. I mean, especially at a time
Hmm.
when last year, what did we hear about? All things SEC. Oh, the SEC is the most dominant basketball conference, and it was a great year. Maybe the best single year a conference has ever had in college basketball, men's and women's. Quite frankly, um, but look who's here this time. We had several Big Ten teams down the stretch. Iowa, with their first year head coach, made a run, knocking out Nebraska. Incredible year, first time ever in the dance for Nebraska. Good
Hmm.
for those guys. And then Illinois ultimately beats Iowa, not handily, but pulls away from them, deservedly so. And then you got Michigan on the other side under Dusty May, who have been dominant all year. Like this is like, dude, like
Hmm.
they're a lot of people's champion. And I think before last night, I would have thought like, yeah, Duke and Michigan. Don't ask me who my champion was. It was Florida.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just kind of said, I said Florida's going to go back to back like they did in Joakim Noah days, and Iowa was like, yeah, they're not. But I will say this to you, my friend: the winner of Arizona Michigan is going to win the national championship. Mark my words.
I
I
can see
really,
that.
I think that's
Yeah,
what's
I
going to
can see
happen.
that. Yeah, I can see that.
Just because those two,
Mhm.
yeah, those two teams are full of dogs, and it's
Yeah. I
Big
mean, they are,
12
yeah, they are the two one seeds, and UConn's a three, Illinois is a two. So
other
yeah,
way. UConn's a
or other
two,
way, other way.
Illinois is
Yeah,
three. So
yeah.
that's what it's been. But all in all, it's been a fun tournament. I don't know what this says about mid majors in the future. I really, really would love to see a true Cinderella in the future. I don't know if it's possible. I don't know if it's possible anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it is either without like some intervention into college athletics over NIL, like salary caps or
Or
something along
contract
that,
years, maybe,
or contract, yeah,
where it's like two
something,
years.
yeah, something that can like sort of try and regulate whatever's happening to a point where it's a bit more possible to be level for the lower, mid-tier programs. So I don't know. We'll see. But for probably the foreseeable future, we're probably going to get tournaments like this to where it's like maybe one or two upsets first weekend, but then it's going to be just bangers after that. And
I, I did have one friend who I won't give him a shout out per se, but unnamed, who said maybe we're going into a year where the true Cinderella is if you get out of round one. And I said,
yeah,
yeah, maybe that's what we have now because
yeah,
gone are the days where the Cinderella can get to the Sweet 16, right?
yeah, yeah.
At some point, there's going to be some team that can do it again. But I think even then, we're going to look around and be like, yeah, but that team was actually loaded. Like you look
I
back at some
mean,
of those Cinderella teams, and it's like they were actually incredible.
look, I mean, I'll say it. Like, I mean, I'll even say it. Like, in my opinion, I feel like the true, I guess, winner of the tournament experience is Miami because they got
Uh-huh.
to play
Mm.
and win a tournament game like miles down the road, and it was an amazing experience. They went and lost, but they'll always have that memory of winning a tournament game in Dayton
You're right.
to cap off that season. So it's just like
To cap
it,
off
it
like
is
the greatest season in
it
the
it
history of the
it,
program. Like,
yeah. I mean it like I don't think they really had you know I don't think they were shocked of how the next game went. So it's just forever having that memory of that first four game. I think is what is probably one of the bigger wins of the tournament
I will share
for
this
in my
story.
opinion.
I will share this brief story with you since it just happened, and then we can move on to the carousel, right? Um, and obviously, in our next show, we'll be back to talk about the championship and everything. But it's interesting you say that because where was I this past weekend? I was in Oxford, Ohio, covering softball at
Mm-hmm.
Miami. And I did get a chance to pick a little bit of the brains of the staff there and everything. And I had one staff member tell me, I said, because I was actually shooting photos and this was one of their video guys. And he said, and I said, like, he was telling me about, yeah, it's just been a crazy couple of weeks because he covered their women's team play like at West Virginia and he covered the game in Dayton, right? And he's telling me, and I said, so what was it like? He's like, yeah, the atmosphere both places was awesome because even being on the receiving end at West Virginia, it was just awesome to be there. I said, what was Dayton like? He's like, Dayton was like, incredible experience. The atmosphere was amazing. I said, got to be cool, like you winning a tournament game of that kind. He's like, ultimately, yes, it was, but I can tell you that the overall feeling at first was that it was a little bit of an insult. And I asked, what do you mean by that? And he said it would have been nice to get straight in and not be considered a first four team. But he said ultimately though the experience was great and we did win and everything.
Mhm.
I Here's where I sit with that. I fully understand where he's coming from. I fully because think about if that happened to us, we would be gung
Mhm.
ho, Bowling Green. Say that was us in BG. Like we would sit there and be like, okay, we made it in, but there would always be that, yeah, but it was a first four. And
Yeah.
and I think it's like the way they won it and how legendary it was made it all the better. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I just thought you'd find that interesting.
No, I definitely get it. I mean, and I see the point, and I know that it can feel like there's a bit of an asterisk, but like for all intents and purposes, like there are 68 tournament teams.
There,
Like
hey, there's 64 that make the one, and it's the field of 68, as is the media outlet. The eight are those first four.
I mean,
Or 62, whatever. You get what I mean.
yeah, I totally know I get how he's feeling, but like it doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't feel any less
It doesn't
because
take
it's
away.
like
I said that too. It doesn't take away from the accomplishment and just
maybe we would be talking differently if they lost to SMU, but like,
right.
but I mean, the fact that they were still able to get the opportunity to play that game, I think, kind of makes it all the better.
Yeah, it's like, and I've been in this situation. It's like when in the old days when it was the one game wild card in baseball, and it's like you lose that game. Does it feel like you made the postseason? No,
Yeah,
like
right,
no.
right. I
So
like definitely it probably would have felt bad if they made the tournament and then their one game was losing in Dayton. Like I think that's
yeah,
probably
before we get into
I can get
coaching carousel,
that.
I do want to just give a shout out that in the women's tournament, everyone is fighting for the right to lose to UConn. They're having another
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
unbelievable season.
Oh, quick before we move on, let me
Yeah, go
just
ahead.
say Arizona. That's my pick. Okay, let's
Oh,
go.
that's your pick. Okay, I'll go Michigan. I'll give it to Dusty May. Well, we'll see what happens, and by our next show, we'll know, right? Gino Oriema did have one really good point that I wanted to make sure I said on this show. He made a really good point that um, this particular, like, he was essentially talking about how across a whole season, very rarely will you use different balls, different nets and stuff.
Hmm.
Well, when they use a different ball, different net at all these different locations and stuff, and they lose the consistency, it's tough for any team to adjust. And the point he was making was like, our team is good enough to make those adjustments. I can't imagine that some of these teams in here, who don't quite have the talent level he does, would have that. And I thought that was interesting because Gino's always done a really good job of being an advocate for his women's team, but also women's basketball in general. And yeah, you know,
Now, I mean, I guess please educate me on this.
sure.
Why are they using different balls in different nets?
I for different locations, I think he was more or less talking about like the continuity you have when you're going to some of these same places, but when you're at your home venue, like you're using the same one, like you're using the same set of game and balls and game nets per game. I don't know why they've been like switching them around like between games in the women's tournament. I really don't know enough to comment on that, but um, it does change the game, and when you consider the fact that the biggest difference with the net is that the different net does make a difference in like those shots that go around the rim versus the ones that go all the way in. Case in point, the way that Duke women's basketball, the way that Duke beat LSU, like
Hmm.
more of those ones, like they got lucky. There was a roll shot that went like around the rim and it fell versus how many times you see that and it rolls right out. You know what I mean? So that's the difference he was talking about. In other words, he was saying like he was another one of those situations where like this particular regulation situation wouldn't be an issue in the men's tournament. It was one of those
Hmm.
situations. So is what it is. I do want to go ahead and mention this. The women's Final Four has yet to be determined. I believe the next two games are Monday night. I believe they're tonight. UConn has made it through for one side. UCLA is on the other, and then the other two will be between South Carolina and TCU. The winner of that will play UConn, and then
Hmm.
Texas, Michigan is the other one. Texas is your number one overall. I think number one overall seed. No, UConn's the number one overall seed. I think Texas is right after that. So
Okay.
I think it'll be Texas and UConn.
Yeah. Yeah.
UCLA is really good though, so we'll see. But there's typically less parity in the women's tournament, at least
Yeah.
historically. So
Yeah.
the coaching carousel that I wanted to get into, and this was really, really timely
Hmm.
because let's talk about Syracuse real quick. Just got
Yeah.
to gush about this. Jerry McNamara, who was at Siena, is now the new head coach at Syracuse. Who's Jerry McNamara? If you're not familiar, well, he was one pivotal piece of the 2003 national championship, Syracuse's only national championship win, alongside Carmelo and those guys. So he's been great. He's been rising the coaching ranks. I believe he was an assistant at Q's there for a little while. Syracuse moved on from Red Autry, and now
Hmm.
he's there. And they debuted a phrase today, which I'm like, okay, I love this. The Jerry Magnum era, where they make the end of his name era, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, that's amazing. They have a logo and everything. And so I think it's Monday. We're recording this. I think today he was officially like introduced and
Hmm.
stuff. And what was pretty cool was he sent a letter to alumni that he wrote himself, and it had like it said like hello friends, or like hello friend, literally had like a hello friends. It's Jerry McNamara, and then it had his graduation year, and it literally got sent to my email being an alumnus.
Hmm.
It said hey, and then it's like, I arrived this year. It was this whole thing about why he loves the program, what his plan is, and then he's like, let's get to work. I work tirelessly for every single one of you every day. Let's go Orange or whatever.
Hmm.
And it was like a surreal thing. I was there's two Syracuse fans who I work with, and I'm like, guys, you got to come in and see this. It was one of those moments. I'm like, it's official. It's official. So, um, we'll see. We'll see if he can return Syracuse basketball to the glory days. And I think most Syracuse fans would just say to the relevant days, because quite frankly, the men's basketball program has not been that relevant since I've had anything to do with Syracuse. The women absolutely have. Ultimately,
Hmm.
went out to UConn in the women's tournament, but the men have not. So, thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, you always like to see um, guys return home, especially guys who were involved in, the highest peak the program's ever reached. And yeah, got to get Mello back and
Well, Melo's son's on the team, Kai Anthony.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
well, we'll see what happens there. But we got to talk about the more probably hitting home news that did drop on Monday. And this is breaking news. There was rumblings about it over the weekend, and now today it became official. John Gross, the now former head coach of the Akron Zips, was officially announced today that he will be taking the job at the College of Charleston. The College of Charleston are historically good basketball school in the Coastal, along with Hofstra and Elon, and they're in that conference. There was rumors about it over the weekend. Now it's official. What are
Charles,
your initial reaction? Go ahead.
Charleston's an interesting school because they get like a weird collection of coaches because he's replacing Chris Mack, who Chris Mack went to Charleston after he got fired from Louisville after Chris Mack went to Louisville from Xavier. So it's a very interesting sort of thing of how they're kind of like any Midwest basketball coach that
Yeah,
like I don't know, it's just kind of an interesting hodgepodge of collection of coaches that they get over there. But yeah, I mean Gross was there for a while. Um
2017 to 2026, almost a
I
full 10 years.
I'm honestly shocked he made it that long, and I'm a little shocked that to be totally honest, Charleston's the best job you could get. Like
Well,
like to be totally honest, like if there was somebody, I'm being totally completely honest here. If there was somebody half competent in the Ohio State athletic department, they probably would have hired him over Tiebler. Like
well,
that's what I'm saying. Like
that's the interesting thing, right? Because there does seem to be a stigma that follows you around. Because if you're not familiar with John Gross in Akron just won the MAC tournament for the third straight year. Okay, they're the first team ever in MAC history to do that. Let me just put the credentials on the table. Gross is an amazing coach. He's gotten a lot of incredible support, but he's a great coach. I've literally seen it firsthand, of course, but aside from that, he was at Ohio from '08 to 12. That was his first head coaching job. Then he was at Illinois from 2012 to 2017, where it did not work out. It was one of those situations where ultimately he was let go from Illinois, I believe, and then he got the Akron job right after that. So it's like one of those where it's like, all right, well, can he only excel in the mid-major level? That's always the question with guys like that,
mhm.
right? Ironically, Travis Steele is another one who kind of is like that, who is also Gross's half brother. Fun fact, if you didn't know that, who in which he went to Xavier and then he's kind of come back down. I think there's a little bit of an unfair stigma that kind of attaches to guys like that. Unfair mainly just because I think some of these ADs out there might have this idea of can we sell this hire to our uh, Big Ten fans specifically because he was at a Big Ten school. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
To me, it's unfair. I completely think it's unfair. I'm with you in that. I think Gross could have gotten a better job, way before now. But at the same time, if you look at Trilly Donovan and some of these other places, apparently there wasn't as much interest in like a Travis Steele. And I say that with no inside information at all. I wouldn't say something like that on this cast. What I'm saying is, I think it's unfair that happens to guys like this.
Hmm.
And so that being said, the biggest debate that I've heard in the last like 24 to 48 hours, my brother, is is this a lateral move? I don't. I think that depends on how you look at it because Charleston is a school that does not have football. You're the main show in town, and at the end of the day, if they're going to pay you a lot more, yeah, I mean, I think most people would agree. Yeah, you should go.
Well, I mean, more money to live in Charleston and like be the king of the city. Sure. Like, I mean, it's kind of two
Yeah,
different things though, because it's like in Akron, like where you are, you know, when you're coming off of three-peating the MAC tournament, like you're at the top of the mountain, anyway. So it's just kind of like, what do you want to do? Like,
I agree.
I
I
would
agree.
say there's an argument to be made it's maybe lateral, but like there's also an argument to be made it's not. So it just kind of
To me,
depends on
it's
what you
not,
want.
but that's just
Like,
me, and I will say most people I think tend to agree with us. I will say this as well. I think it comes down to when coaches move around, like say college football or big programs in college basketball. What is your own goal? Is it to win tournament games? Because
mhm.
unfortunately, Akron hasn't been able to do that in the last like few years that they've won the tournament, right? Whereas, at a place like Charleston, is it easier to get guys who can potentially do that? I don't know, maybe. But when you have every ounce of juice at the department going towards like when you have like the football budget, so to speak, going towards basketball, it does make a difference in a mostly basketball centered league, right? So that's why to me it's not a lateral. Now it sounds, now I will say just like openly, Dustin Ford is the associate head coach at Akron. An incredible coach in his own right. He's been with Gross a long time, so we'll see if they don't just if they hire him or whatever they decide to do. I don't know, but Akron is still a great, incredible
Hmm.
job in the MAC, and
Hmm.
they're very good. So we'll see. We'll see
Akron
what
head
happens.
coach LeBron James.
Okay, can I just spout like a theory that is going around just in case something crazy like it happens? Like what is it? The head coach at Duquesne has those ties. Like, what if he
Yeah.
got the Akron job and some way somehow LeBron comes back to Cleveland for one more year, and then like one his son's like on Akron, or at least he's at the games a lot. Like, there's a lot of that chatter happening, like where I'm at right now, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, can we all just calm down and take a collective breath? Um, because like I'm quicker to think that that first thing might happen than LeBron coming back to Cleveland, but that's a whole other story we're not going to get into.
Yeah, yeah.
But anything more on the coaching carousel?
Uh, no, I mean, I think that was pretty much it. I mean, it doesn't seem like there um has been a ton of carousel stuff. I mean, it seems like
Nothing
that was,
unexpected yet.
yeah,
I
yeah.
guess the closest thing is you had Will Wade after 1 year going back to
Oh,
LSU.
oh, yeah, that's a whole other thing of like all of a sudden LSU decides to welcome him back with open arms
Sure
and
do.
just the most insane decision making process I've ever seen.
Dude,
Like,
LSU, they're just trying to collect all of
okay.
the like maybe all of the controversial coaches. I don't know.
I mean, like in LSU, like a athletic department meeting with Kim Mulkey, Lane Kiffin, and Will Wade.
That's quite a coaches meeting, I'll tell
That's
you what.
that's the athletic director in like collecting the Infinity Stones
It
of
really
problematic
is.
Coaches.
It is. It is. It's like, oh, we're gonna wield and we're gonna win too. Purple and gold. The sun will not set on the LSU empire.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Who's the most controversial baseball coach? And then
Oh
who's the most?
no. Honestly, probably the dude who just left to answer that question, probably the dude who just left Tennessee to take the Giants job. Just because
Oh,
you usually just don't see that transit,
yeah.
that
Yeah.
happen,
Yeah.
a lot of the time. But yeah, that happened. So anyway, I will end this conversation by saying this. I still think we could see like a big retirement or something like that. There's been a lot of speculation about that, which is why like Tom Izzo came out and was like, "I'm not
Yeah.
even thinking about
Yeah.
retiring." It's like
It's
I know
like,
you're not.
okay, okay,
It's
buddy.
like I know you're not, Coach Izzo, and your teams play like you are definitely not. I will also say, Michigan State had my favorite player in college basketball this year, Cohen Carr, the greatest dunker. If you haven't seen, just look up
Oh,
Cohen, Google Cohen Carr dunking. His dunks this year for Michigan State were ridiculous. That was like the biggest thing. I was like, oh man, can they somehow get to like at least the Elite Eight or Final Four just so we can see that? And the
hmm.
he is a kid who openly declared war on every rim he can possibly find. That's all I can say about that. But great stuff. Is it time to transition to some
Sure.
pop
Let's
culture
get to
stuff to
it.
wrap things up? One of the things that happened, ironically, I think it was the Monday before my birthday, something like that. We got a trailer for Spider-Man Brand New Day. After we discuss this, we are going to talk about the first episode of Daredevil Born Again season 2. We're now back to street level Marvel, but I gotta say, I really, really liked the Brand New Day trailer more than I thought I
Hmm.
would, based on our conversation about Marvel over the last like year, I'd say.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Oh, yeah, 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 definitely. I mean, and I think that like we've talked a lot about how um they they knew what they were doing with the projects was not right. And so I think that they um kind of probably retooled the storyline. They probably retooled some stuff. And outside of the stuff that they already had, they had to release. The stuff we've seen come out so far seems to be promising. After they've kind of, come back to the, you know, after they've sort of come back down to where they belong in terms of making stuff that feels more Marvel and
It feels more Spider-Man because
yeah.
the thing about it is Spider-Man as an IP is in himself. I don't want to say bigger than Marvel, but it's one of the tent poles, right? It's one of like
Hmm.
Spider-Man is to Marvel what like Batman is to DC. It is the character that a lot of things pillar off of. And the interesting thing with Tom Holland's Spider-Man is that we've never gotten a ground level movie like this with him. The closest thing was probably Homecoming, but even then, like he was still in high school. He wasn't really like out in the about city. Like this feels like proper Spider-Man. No one knows who
Well,
he is. Go ahead.
yeah, I mean the ground level version of him is him hanging on an airplane, like with it, like splitting,
Yeah,
like
that's true. Him dusting
I
away
mean,
because he's an Avenger.
yeah, I mean, like it was pretty high stakes stuff for being ground level. So yeah, I mean, I'm curious where we'll go. I mean, and I think it'll be a really good expose of the character from what we've seen of like him basically, you know, watching his friends from afar
Yeah.
as you know, nobody knows who he is. And so seeing sort of him deal with the repercussions of making everybody forget him is going to be interesting to sort of see how he handles like having nobody.
One of my favorite Marvel scenes of all time, superhero movie scenes, comic book scenes, really movie scenes of all time, I'll say, that the second time I actually even says the second time I watched this movie, the second time I saw Spider-Man No Way Home, the scene actually made me tear up a little bit, and it was the scene at the very end when he sews his new suit, and it shows him kind of like he's still swinging, he's
Yeah.
going through the snow, he's got the police scanner on, and they show him swinging, he's literally swinging through Rockefeller Center, and then he
Hmm.
hits it, and it's literally the last shot of the film. I thought him saying, you know what, all this happened. I've lost everyone. I've lost everything. But in the back of his mind, he's like, that doesn't mean I'm going to stop. I'm not going to stop being Spider Man. And it's going to be cool to see what, it's going to be cool to see like what he's been up to. Yes. But also, it's like in his own crazy kind of Marvel Cinematic Universe roundabout way, he got the lessons that the initial from the comic book level up Peter Parker got, just in his own unique kind of cosmic crazy way.
Hmm.
And he learned the sacrifices and what it is. And this is going to have him dealing with like this metamorphosis thing. I don't think we're going to get something as out of the box as like Man Spider, but I do think there is going to be a little bit of that because there's like that voiceover. He's like, in those spiders that make it through, there's something of a rebirth. But I tallied a few villains. I tallied Scorpion. I tallied Tarantula. I tallied a realistic look of the hand, which is sweet
Hmm.
because I had someone say to me a couple days ago, like they probably photoshopped out Daredevil in that scene where it's like him and Matt about to take these guys out. But that is like that's why they're called the hand. They literally attack like they're
Yeah.
there's too many of them for you to handle. Like they're
Right.
grabbing you.
So
Um,
I just for clarification's sake, because you're the, more knowledgeable about it than I am. I not so much the like the man spider thing. The vibe I got just from like sort of the trailer was that he was beginning to develop like his own web stuff, and he
yeah.
was able like he was sort of developing maybe some more of the stuff that the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man had, and because it was like more,
When it
I
showed
don't
him in
know,
it
like,
shows him in that like cocoon,
yeah.
waking up in that. Like, oh
The
snap.
impression I got was just that like his powers were maturing and he was just getting more powerful. Like I
I
didn't
think
interpret the trailer as him turning into Man Spider.
no, no, no,
Like,
no, and that's a trope in itself of when Peter does start to like mutate and he grows like arms and his head gets all weird. Like that is like a like kind of a Frankenstein-esque like storyline that Peter does go through in some runs. What I'm getting at though is yeah, I think like his powers are maturing. It might even also be like this kind of thing of like if he starts to get his own organic web in his wrists, it's almost like spiders and he going through this whole thing of like your literal anatomy adjusting to what you use all the time, right? It's like he knows, like it's like your anatomy knows it's like we need web to be able to come out here, And I'm sure it's going to
mhm.
be something tying into mutants because I'm not convinced we've seen the main villain of whoever
Yeah.
it is. I have some theories on that, which I'll go ahead and drop, but in a moment. But we know that Sadie Sink is in this movie. A lot of people have said that she might be Jean Grey. I think you're going to have a little bit of X-Men echoing here. I think it's going to be like, what I'm mutating, what is going on? And it's like he's going to get like some reassurance from some surprise characters we don't know yet. There is that one scene where that like security guard is like shaken and he's like, and Peter's like, "Are you going to help or are you not?" And he's like, his spider sense is going off or whatever. I could see the villain of this movie being Mr. Negative, and they just haven't shown any of him yet. Mr. Negative corrupts people. He's one of the main villains of the original Spider-Man game on PS4.
Mhm.
He's got the suit. He's got like the tux suit. He turns like He turns literally like his suit's white, his whole skin turns white. He looks like a negative photo. He looks pretty sweet actually, but that's one of the villains I've heard tossed around.
Interesting. Yeah, I definitely think that they usually are good at like doing some sort of subterfuge in the trailers. Um, I mostly because I mean the interesting thing is like I saw that this trailer ended up I think like leaking on Twitter like months ago, and like and then like nobody really believed it was the trailer until like the actual trailer came out, and it was literally the entire trailer like that got leaked months ago.
And the Punisher's in it. I mean, of course he's in it.
Yeah.
Frank Castle's up in here. Like, of course he is. Why wouldn't why wouldn't he be?
Yeah, yeah. So
Um,
I think it'll be interesting. You always love it when you're like, all these people are in New York. They should run into each other more frequently,
they
right?
absolutely should. They absolutely should. And I'm excited. It's gonna be great. That movie comes out on July 31st. So
Yeah.
a full what 4 or 5 months from the day the show comes out, the 31st of March, whatever. Um, Transition time because we're gonna get into Daredevil because it is a good. Go ahead.
Before we get into
Yeah.
that, do we want to just at least acknowledge? Also today there was the news drop that we're getting another Supergirl trailer
Oh
tomorrow.
yeah, yeah. We can go ahead and
It's not out yet. We haven't seen it because it will be out
we haven't seen it,
tomorrow.
but like it'll be
But
out on
but
Tuesday by the time you hear
it
this. Yeah.
yeah. But so
The
that's exciting.
the
Something to look
one little
forward to.
snippet you we did get in the teaser is literally like like it's like a voice call from Clark to Kara like, "Hey,
Yeah,
we miss you.
he's like,
Like,
pick up your phone, please.
please pick up your phone. We don't know if you're okay or not." It's
Yeah.
like, she's
Which
fine.
that seems to be pretty on track because I think the story is like that she's like on a bender somewhere in space, and that's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if we pick up with her like right after we saw her in
yeah,
in the cameo in Superman, right?
yeah.
So we'll see. So yes, we will probably talk about that, at some point, depending on what is revealed. But spoiler alert for Daredevil, Born Again seasons 1 and the
Mhm.
first episode of season 2, and quite frankly, Daredevil the show. We do spoiler talk for these, which is why we stick it at the end of our episodes. But Daredevil's back. I even just I said I was going to do it, Case, and just the dum 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 dum, just that chime. Whenever I
Yeah.
hear that, I'm like, okay, we're all the way back. Let's do this. Um, the theme song for Daredevil Born Again is a rehash, but the theme is the same theme from the Daredevil show, the original one.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's the same theme. So the Daredevil theme is very, very good. But you get a chance to see this first episode.
Absolutely. Let me just because the first thing I want to say right now, let me get this. I want to make sure I get this right, so I'm trying to pull this up here.
Hmm.
Uh, I had it pulled up and I lost it. Right. So I wanted to just first give a lot of commendations to the directors because this first episode, The Northern Star, was directed by Aaron Moorhead and Justin Benson, who are pretty frequent like TV directors. They've done particularly in Marvel because they've done 2 episodes of Moon Knight. They've done 4 episodes of Loki, and this is I think their fifth episode of Daredevil. So um, fourth or fifth episode of Daredevil, how they count that. So because there's a lot of cool shots in here. I mean,
Yeah.
we've all talked about the aspect ratio change at the beginning of the episode, and then there's there was the shot of the head that turns into Fisk's the back of Fisk's the
Yeah.
wig head. And then I even just the opening. So like even when the episode opens and you get the shot of the bridge like coming down and then the
Hmm.
ship like passing over the bridge. So I there's a lot of stuff like that in Moon Knight and in Loki that I thought were super cool. So they love the directing of this. Super well done.
It's incredible. And the thing that we praised this show about a year ago was that I like it does still feel different than it's the same tone, same
Yeah.
grittiness, same realism than the original Daredevil show, but it is its own show. Like it has its own
Hmm.
vibe. They do a little bit different things with all that, especially with the fight choreography and all that stuff. But it really does tonally do this. But I will also say this: no knocking the old show. The writing of this show is very, very good. And they do a very good shot job of like juggling each and every character situation. Absolutely, I'm with you on the aspect ratio of things, but I think my biggest takeaway from this first episode of the second season, I don't know how much time has gone by, but even if it's been like a few months since the end of season one or a year or whatever,
Hmm.
because like over the course of the first season, like a lot of time goes by because Fisk is campaigning, then he wins, and then of course like the whole point of the first season is that they were both being drawn back to their stuff, right?
Yeah, I didn't think it was a lot of time. Like in my head, I interpreted that as like a few months, maybe.
Few months.
I
That's what it
because
feels like.
I just didn't think it was like a year. I mean, I would say at most maybe 6 months, but
I would agree. And
mm,
so we don't waste any time. We're in Devil's Reign, which is the lock and key authoritarian New York City lockdown curfew at 8, anti vigilante task force, the AVTC. And Daredevil has like his sickest suit maybe he's ever had, at least in the show. It's all
hmm.
black, the double D. Looks very, very cool. Matt's still doing his thing.
Yeah,
I love Karen just being here and being with him.
yeah,
I know
yeah.
there was that kind of whole, is she going to come back whole thing with the whole other love interest who, of course, now is working for Fisk, which is something I'll mention here in a moment. I'll just mention it now. Her changing the answers and doing all that stuff, she's very much become a cog in the Fisk machine, right? Uh,
Well, it's also very interesting to see her like basically becoming an alcoholic to deal with the fact that she's like
yeah,
suffering from trauma
the
that like
Muse, she's seeing Muse.
yeah. And so I think that's a very interesting thing to um to go to see how that develops and what how that it sort of contributes to her actions moving forward of her
Hmm.
of the psychiatrist basically having a mental breakdown over having
Yes.
PTSD of being almost killed.
And absolutely. And I would also add there's two characters that I think are gonna potentially flip for the better. She's one, and then that other dude that dude who was the guy as part of Fisk Circle who pals around with BB at night.
The
Um
yeah, Michael Gandolfini.
get Michael Gandolfini. Yeah, like I think that there's gonna be some moral situations that come down that are either that you're gonna show
Yeah.
that is this going to backfire on Wilson Fisk? Because I
They
totally can see
I the thing I have with that guy is like
it.
they keep like setting up that like because like the whole first season they kept setting up that like he was maybe a little questioning of this was okay, but he loves the power.
He loves the power. Yeah.
Like we saw Fisk basically gave him this penthouse apartment and so he like loves what he gets from it. But I think he knows some of the stuff is wrong,
Hmm.
but he loves being there. He loves being in power. And so I think maybe he will, but not until something happens. Like
And
I
he's
think,
and he's good at social media stuff. Like they
yeah,
established that in the first. That's why Fisk wanted him around. Like this dude
yeah.
knows the streets. Like this guy
I
knows
think
how to push stuff online. Like
I mean him flipping I think could be like the huge thing that could end up exposing him because if his power to reach people on social media could be what exposes him.
yeah,
But
it could backfire on
yeah,
Fisk significantly. Yes.
but I something is gonna have to happen for him to flip. Like I don't know what, but it's gonna like he's gonna have to like be put in a situation where he has to see the light, and I don't know
Yes.
what that is. But I will say it was absolutely shocking. To me, I completely forgot that he was going to be in this. And
Oh,
so
I know.
I was very taken aback when all of a sudden I'm like I'm like why is Shaggy in Daredevil
Why
right
is
now?
Matthew Lillard here? And
Yeah, I was like
I
what
had to kind of like back it up. I'm like,
what
wait, was that Matthew Lillard at DC and all that stuff? And one of the things I wanted to go ahead and say is that scene where he's just at the Fisk's house and they're all like,
yeah
they're all like, drinking, and he's like, oh, I don't appreciate you coming to my office and showing me up or whatever. Always how Fisk
yeah
talks, and it's like, oh, sorry, I thought we were like cool like that. I'm not trying to do that, but the people I work for.
no
Yes.
I yeah no I will say like justice for Matthew Lillard because
Yeah,
he that like that this character is so good.
he's
And
awesome.
he does this so well, which
Mr.
I'd have to
Charles is his
I'd
name,
have
by
to
the way.
look. I'd have
Mr.
to look, but
Charles.
I think he was like I want to say he was in like Criminal Minds or something. There was something where he played like a serial killer or something,
Hmm.
and he's very good at playing psychopaths
Yeah, he
and
is.
like that'll just like that like have a natural charm, but like they are sociopathic to a
He
point where you have no idea what they're thinking.
he seems like his name is Mr. Charles. He in that scene shows like he could flip on a dime and like be like like either a stone cold killer or like just like he could be like very serious. And even in that moment, like he kind of gains respect from the Fisks because it's sort of like, oh, I mean, well, the people I work for can do X, Y, and Z and stuff like that. And there, I justice for Matthew Lillard. I did have a moment of, he's like, oh, this guy has a, he's like, oh, the people with me. I'm like, yeah, I used to solve mysteries with a talking dog and now I do stuff like this. I couldn't help but think like, oh man, I Shaggy. But he's a great actor, which is why he was such a good Shaggy.
Yes.
Seriously, but he's a very interesting character. He has some ties to Washington. I have a theory on who he works for. He might just be the hand.
We know who he works for.
Who does he work for?
The the CIA director. He's a CIA spook, essentially, because he said he works at Langley, so he's part of the CIA, and he works for Julia Louis Dreyfus.
Oh, so he worked
The
for V
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah,
Okay, well that would make
De
sense.
Fontaine, yeah.
Fontaine,
Because she called the Attorney General of New York,
that's what
and
it is.
that's why, yeah, she called him and was like, "You're gonna let him do whatever he wants."
Yeah, do let him do whatever he wants. Yeah, because she's an Amanda Waller-esque character, but
Yeah.
like kind of worse, Shout out the Thunderbolts. But
Yeah. So
yeah.
it makes sense that he's like this because he's like in with her.
I didn't
And so
know that.
they
Thank you for
operate kind
connecting
of the
that
same
to me.
way. Yeah.
Well, my theory was cooler.
Well, there might be some of that in there too. I mean,
I don't know. I
I
just
don't
I feel
know,
like we're
but
gonna see the hand some way, somehow in this.
it is very interesting though because like the concept of the corrupt CIA director getting involved with the mob run New York
Hmm.
city government politics is like kind of odd, but
It is.
we know that like because she's doing all this like trafficking and stuff from this through the CIA, and they're using his port to do it. Is
Yes.
I think,
Which
yeah,
one of the quirks they did with the last season is that they established that in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that ports are just kind of like they're free. They're not considered like state controlled, which is just a little quirk in our history where like that could have gone the other direction. So, if you get control of the ports, you can't track what's going in and out. So that was one of the actual pieces of distorted history that they introduced in
mhm.
because like in real life you can't just bring things in and out, everything's tracked, it's
Yeah,
it's all state controlled. Yeah, there must be a log of everything you bring in. It's just not that way, or it's more ambiguous in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I thought, like, I actually saw you, I was at shout out New Rock Stars who explained that to me. I was like, oh yeah, okay, so that is actually a piece of history they just changed, um for this to even work out. So
yeah.
I'm trying to think. There was that, the takeaway. The final scene, which obviously with this show, you got to be careful with with our descriptions of what things are. I texted you last night. I said, you always know when a fight scene's about to go down in a Daredevil show, but nearest bad guy is probably going to get a club to the face, and then probably several broken limbs before it's all done. Um, it is kind of like Matt Murdock. I've always loved because he is just an incredible character in general, but he's like the closest thing the Marvel universe has to Batman in the sense of like very few like characters in Marvel are better than him at hand-to-hand combat because he was trained by
Mhm.
Stick, who is technically better than that. So like you're waiting for him to pop off. It's like that first scene of the first season when it's like you don't want to do this, you don't want to do this, and it's like okay, like he can take these guys apart if he really needs to. um, yeah, so I love that stuff. Um, I guess the last piece is we're going to see the rabbit hole, the string that they're going to pull is we're getting 2 episodes this week, which I'm guessing they tie together. Would
Yeah.
be my guess. There may be a part one, part two type thing going on. I guess how does this work? I mean, I mean, I guess we're going to be in the process of building the army. Frank's still out there. They established that in the
Mhm.
final shot. We're getting
Where
Jessica
I
Jones at some
we're
point.
get,
We know that.
I would imagine we're getting Jessica Jones tomorrow. I
I
think
think so too.
she will be in either maybe the end of the first episode and then comes in to play this. Like I don't know, but I would imagine she'll be in this
Shout
one.
out Kristen Ritter. I always liked her Jessica Jones. I always did. She's a very tormented character in her own right, but she's also very real. And her, spiel is that she has super strength, but she's also a very, very good detective. So
Mhm.
I think I welcome her. When I heard she was coming back for Daredevil season 2, I was like, thank you. Are we getting like we've gotten some validation for the old Daredevil show? We've canonized that. Can we? I was like, can we at least bring in Jessica Jones and Luke Cage? And I think we're gonna get at least that. Iron Fist. We don't need to talk about that at all. We don't even need to acknowledge that. And they're not. They're like, yeah, that was bad. We're not even gonna all that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, we don't care about
Yeah.
that. But
Mhm.
we are at least gonna get that. So a lot of setup, but those are the pieces that I found most interesting. It's like, okay, we've got the authoritarianism going on here. We had these two, now one, boat captains who followed orders, but it's like, oh snap, we didn't do this right. Um,
Mhm.
where's it gonna go? I don't know.
Speaking of, speaking of the directing, that scene with the boat captain, the, like a crazy shot.
That was a crazy
Like
shot.
I was just like, holy,
Yeah,
okay.
like any time that they just show that was when they were messing around with the. Do you mean the one where he was captured, or do you mean the one at the beginning of the show?
The one where he's captured.
Oh yeah, that was
Yeah.
yeah, that was
Because
that.
I don't know if you know, it was kind of faint. I don't know if you noticed it, but like the like splatter on the screen was wild. I
Yeah, it
was like,
was.
that's a choice.
I was like,
That's a
this is
choice.
certainly a choice, but they showed me some visuals I thought Disney would never greenlight in the last
I know,
season. So,
I
so
know. I
I'm like, well,
when
the mouse is okay with this.
I kind of forgot like when you're clicking around on Disney Plus. And then I heard the first F bomb. I kind of forgot what I was doing, and I was like, "Oh,
I
okay,
was like,
that's right."
oh yeah, that's right.
I was like, "That's right. This is Daredevil."
All
Okay.
right, we are in Daredevil.
I
TVM
was like,
got
you
it.
kind of get a false sense of security on Disney Plus for a
You
second,
do,
but
you do. But I will also say this, and these are my final thoughts. I've never, even in the Netflix days, and even more so now, I've never looked at Daredevil as violent or over the top mature for violence sake. It feels real. You know what I mean? It feels like
yeah.
they're showing me a realistic and believable amount of violence, how people actually talk, like
Mhm.
how adults speak to each other. Like
Oh yeah,
this is
yeah.
more like just our everyday life in terms of just being an adult in this situation.
No, yeah. I mean, and to be honest, I think most of the like, I guess gratuitous violence of the show is honestly mostly done to be artistic.
And shock
Like
value. Like, yeah.
it's mostly to provide shock value to the moment,
Hmm.
but it's done in an artistic fashion. Like to be totally honest, like not many like shows could show you head on somebody get their brains blown out, but like have it be done in a way that like doesn't seem like it doesn't seem over the top. It's
No.
just like, oh, okay.
Like,
Oh, all
oh,
right.
okay,
Yeah.
that was the next step.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Like
Like,
like
all right.
for it to be like as head on as it was, but like be fairly like well done in like a stylistic way. That's cool.
And even then, it wasn't over the top violent. It wasn't.
Yeah, and then even then,
If you're used to that kind of stuff, I should say.
something else too. I this is another. I wanted to point as like a director guy. I wanted to point this particular like shot out because it shows what they do.
Hmm.
So at the very beginning of the episode, when Matt gets on the boat and he's like beating up the guys on the boat when he's like going through, there's a shot where it shows the chain on the boat and like as you hear the audio of him like beating a guy up, it like cuts to focus. It focuses with the chain in the foreground, and then it cuts to focus on the chain. It's
Mm.
like I don't know if you know the shot I'm talking about, but
I
like
know. Yep.
but it's stuff like that like that is a directing artistic choice that provides the mood of where you are at and what's happening, because it places you basically in a serene setting with subtle like sounds of assault happening.
Well,
But it provides you like a grounding experience of like it's dark, it's nighttime, it's dead silent except for Matt beating this guy up. Like,
well, right. And I'll add to what you just said. Shout out Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. They have to do things like that because they're kind of like implying Matt can hear that, right? They
yes,
have this.
yes.
It's like his sonar sense. They're very good at atmospherically. It's like you have to understand Matt's senses are so heightened that you have to any given time he's able to focus in on the smallest things to know what is going on. Even him hearing the heartbeat at the end, like the opening shot of the show last year was shocking in itself, just because obviously what happens, but also the way they show that his senses are hypersense all time.
Hmm.
These two guys have done a great job of demonstrating how he views the world. It's like, how is this possible? It's like, well, he's a superhero. Like these are, and it's so unique because it's a power that no one else has. This like sonar
Yeah,
sense that
yeah.
Matt has. Just know
Yeah,
where
no,
he
I mean
is, see
that's a
everything.
really, really excellent point that you
Yeah.
bring up, in that like their directorial style puts you in the world of that guy, which is
Yep.
in the same way they didn't do all of it, but like in the same way the directing style of Moon Knight put you into his own world
I would agree.
of shark, like you remember how like there would all be these cuts and jumps of like of like him like falling asleep and then waking up and he's in a whole different place,
Yep.
like he's shooting
The
somebody, or
Oh
like
yeah, yeah. Like
yeah.
it just comes to like the first like two episodes of Moon Knight were phenomenal. The way it was just like dude like attacks him
Yeah.
on the truck, and then he just and then all those guys are like dead. He's got a gun in his hand.
Yeah,
Like
he's just like,
and
oh.
and the one that's wild is, and I'll just shout out another great show that I hope that comes back some point. The last the when they show one more blackout and everything's on fire, like all that
Yeah.
stuff is everything in that last shot, and he's like, he talks to himself. He's like Mark, that Steve, that wasn't you, was it? And then Steve's like, no, it wasn't. And it's like, oh God, there's a third one in there.
Yeah.
And it's Jake. It's Jake, his
Yeah.
just insane one, and you see it at the very end. But I was like, oh God, what does that like version of Moon Knight look like?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like that's why I hope we get more Moon Knight too. Shout out to these
Yeah.
guys because I was thinking, okay, season two of Moon Knight's got to show that.
Yeah. And
Anyway,
so
they're
I
very
mean,
good at doing
it's
atmospheric storytelling.
not just them. I mean, it's
It's
it's a
everybody.
it's
Yep.
all these MCU uh directors and stuff. They're so good at like at their directorial style being influenced by the main character's perception of reality.
Yep.
And it really helps you understand the universe. And it's so
Yep.
cool.
I love Daredevil. I really love these characters. Uh, shout out Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio. They also are just incredible on social media. I sent you a video today. Just these guys have embodied these characters, and for me, they've reached Stark level, like, in the sense
Hmm.
of Robert Downey Jr. was Stark. Like, I can't imagine. You can't like Vince D'Onofrio is Kingpin. Charlie Cox is Matt Murdock. Like I can't unsee them.
Oh,
And
100%. I mean, because
and
at,
yeah,
at this point, you're talking about doing this for 5 seasons. Like,
mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, like
100%.
I'm watching this. I'm like, yeah, this is season two of this show, but this is season five of Daredevil. Like, they're
Yeah.
in this, man, and they have quite the antithesis. So,
I mean, not even just that. Like even with the break in time between them, it's like
yep,
they've been these characters for over a decade.
over
Like,
true. Yeah, even the break. So, and on that same note, because I at times forget, Deborah Ann Wall, she's Karen Page. She's
mhm.
also been at this that long too. So,
Yeah.
that's our show. for this week. The last day of This Is March, you will hear this show when it comes out. Thank you everyone so much for listening, watching, every partake. We will continue to review Daredevil. We will continue to bring you shows as we can. Casen, any final thoughts?
No, I'm just excited for these next two episodes. Daredevil.
Me too. And
Yeah.
we'll be able to watch them like by the time this show goes out. So shout it out, man. This is Kellan.
This is Casen.
As always, we will see you at the next stop.